Hello everybody, this is Kate, and today I'm going to do a soft spoken reading of parts of this interesting book. This is a facsimile of Bradshaw's illustrated Handbook to London and its environs, which was originally printed in 1862. And this is a copy that I picked up a while ago, and I particularly like the cover. So I'm going to have a look through this, and I'm going to use my pointer. And we'll find out a little bit more about London in 1862. So it says, Bradshaw's Guide Through London and its environs, exhibiting in a novel and comprehensive form all that can be seen in the metropolis and its vicinity for 30 miles bound round, forming a complete and indispensable companion to the resident and stranger, by E.L. Blanchard. So, George Bradshaw, whom the book is named after, was an English cartographer, printer and publisher. He is most famous for developing a series of railway timetables and guides, recently popularised by Michael Portillo in his TV series Great Railway Journeys. These became synonymous with their publisher, so that for Victorians and Edwardians, a railway timetable was a Bradshaw. After his death, Punch magazine said of Bradshaw's labours, "Seldom has the gigantic intellect of man been employed upon a work of greater utility." Some really great illustrations in here as well. Unfortunately, my eyesight isn't good enough to actually read these little things. I think this says Crystal Palace, Sydenham, and London. Yeah, it's a little bit faded. So this one here is London, 1590, in the reign of Queen Elizabeth. And this is the Strand, Fleet Street and St Paul's looking eastward, with Old London Bridge and the Church of St Mary, Overy, Southwark in the distance. And this one is London, 1857, in the reign of Queen Victoria, looking eastward from Fleet Street, and that's St Paul's. in the distance. So, let's start with Part 1, the city, first stage route, District 1. The city, ancient and modern, the city companies, St. Paul's Cathedral, its early history, the present, structure, charges of admission, the monuments, the library, the model room, the great bell, the clock, the whispering gallery, the outer galleries, the ball, or is that the hall? No, the hall, and the ball and cross, the crypt, St. Paul's School, the General Post Office, statistics of letters, Goldsmiths Hall, Cheapside, Row Church, City of London School, the Guildhall, and Bucklersbury. The centre of our great commercial transactions, the heart, as it were, of London, is that place of mighty import, the city, which has been not inaptly termed the bank for the whole world. Here are situated the banking houses, the counting houses of the bullion, bill, and discount brokers, the offices of stock and share brokers, and the huge establishments of those wealthy individuals who, under the title of merchants, without any other specific designation, carry on those extensive operations which give vitality to the most remote region where the foot of man has ever penetrated. There are 336 stockbroking establishments, many of them firms with 2 or more partners, 37 bullion, bill, and discount brokers, 248 ship and insurance brokers, and about 1,500 merchants, all of whom have their places of business concentrated within a 5 minutes' walk of the Royal Exchange. And this is without reckoning the bankers, the general and commercial agents, the colonial cotton, silk and wool brokers, the corn and coal factors, the solicitors and notaries, the tradesmen and shopkeepers, and the great insurance railway, and steam packet companies, who have all located themselves within the same neighbourhood. Truly, may we point out this thickly populated section of the metropolis as one having no parallel on the globe, and the immense amount of wealth here concentrated as equal to the entire revenue of many European states. Since the time of the Great Fire of 1666, London has not been so greatly changed as it has been during the last quarter of a century, and it is gratifying to note that these changes distinctly show the onward progress of the nation, both in taste and wealth. It is curious to compare in an architectural point the places of business, such as banks, insurance offices, shops, taverns, etc., of the times to which we refer, and the structures intended for similar uses at the present day. The new squares, streets and warehouses look like palaces by the contrast. This beneficial change is most visible in the city. In Threadneedle Street and Cornhill, for instance, where several noble buildings have been erected by the side of old ones which render the contrast most notable. St. Paul's Cathedral. Among those who do not wholly repudiate the spirit of poetry and romance which associates itself with the musty records of antiquity, it has been long a favourite opinion that here stood the ancient temple of Diana, probably as early as the 2nd century. Situated just where the Hermine Way led the hunter forth from the northern gates immediately upon the surrounding forest, and which was plentifully stocked with wild animals, it is natural to imagine that here the ancient votary of the chase made his oblation to Diana on going forth, and that on returning he here offered up his spoils as a tribute in sacrifice to the tutelary duty of his pursuits. It is a singular fact, as if the custom itself had outlived the memory of its origin, that for centuries afterwards the offering of a fat doe in winter and a book in summer was annually made at the high altar on the day of the saint's commemoration, and was solemnly received by the dean and chapter, attired in their sacred vestments and crowned with garlands of roses. As late as the reign of Elizabeth, this offering was made in lieu of 22 acres of land in Essex, belonging to the canons of the church. Long before the Reformation, Old St. Paul's was renowned for its embellishments, and massive basins of gold, silver candlesticks, silver crosses, gold cups, and other ornaments of the most costly and sumptuous description sparkled on its altar, which displayed the most extravagant workmanship, and was inlaid with precious jewels. In front of the cathedral stood the famous Paul's Cross, a wooden pulpit in which the most eminent divines preached every Sunday forenoon. For many years the old cathedral was a place of common resort, and converted into a general thoroughfare. The chapels and chantries were turned into workshops for merchants who pursued their business during divine service. The vaults were made wine cellars, shops. And houses were built against the outer wall of the cathedral, and even a playhouse is said to have been among the erections with which the exterior was disfigured. At last the great fire took place and put a stop to these abominations entirely, consuming in a few hours that splendid pile that had cost for so many centuries so much money and labour in its erection and adornment. District 2. The Mansion House, St. Stephen's, Walbrook, the Bank of England, the New Royal Exchange, Lloyd's, the Stock Exchange, Lothbury, Cornhill, the East India House, the Museum, Crosby Hall, the South Sea House, modern improvements, and antiquities. The widening of the streets and the other architectural improvements recently added, where no less than 7 great thoroughfares converge towards one central point, have made the present aspect of the busy region in front of the Royal Exchange worthy of the grandeur and importance of the first city in the world. The cluster of public buildings here surrounding us renders a detailed description necessary of each. The Mansion House. The official residence of the Lord Mayor during his year of civic sovereignty is a building of Portland stone with a Corinthian portico of 6 columns in front. Resting on a low basement, this edifice, which has some emblematic sculpture on the pediment, stands on the site of what was anciently called Stocks Market, the great market of the city during many centuries. A flight of steps leads to the door beneath the portico, which is the grand entrance, and to the left is the office where the police charges are taken and adjudicated. Besides an extensive suite of domestic apartments, it contains a number of staterooms for the reception and entertainment of company, and these, when lit up, present a magnificent appearance. The principal is the Egyptian Hall, a lofty room of considerable splendour. The Lord Mayor has an allowance of £8,000 for his year of mayoralty, but this income is often considerably exceeded by the expenditure. The use of a state coach and a superb collection of plate is also a privilege which is extended to the period of his official occupation of the Mansion House. Adjacent to the Mansion House is seen the Church of St. Stephen's, Walbrook, acknowledged to be the masterpiece of Sir Christopher Wren, for the beauty of proportion his architectural skill has imparted to the interior. It was erected in 1675. The altarpiece by West represents the interment of St. Stephen and was placed there in 1776. The roof of the church is supported by Corinthian columns, so disposed as to produce a grandeur effect than the dimensions of the church seem to promise. Deacon's Coffee House close by is worthy of mention for the quantity of newspapers, metropolitan, foreign and provincial, provided for the visitors. The files of newspapers here kept can all be examined for a small gratuity. Second day's route. District 3. Doctors' Commons, Herald's College, Southwark Bridge, Queen Hythe Vintry, Whittington's Tomb, London Stone, Merchant Taylor's School, King William Street, the Monument, London Bridge, Thames Street, the New Coal Exchange, Billingsgate, the Custom House, the Tower, the Armouries, the Jewel Office, the Batteries and the Parade, Tower Hill, the Trinity House, and the Mint. We again start from St. Paul's, taking a southeasterly direction through Cannon Street, leading therefrom towards King William Street and London Bridge. The money provided for these new city improvements, £200,000, was raised on bonds at interest on the credit of the city revenues and estates. The relief afforded by this new artery to the crowded thoroughfare of Cheapside is most acceptable and beneficial, and it contains some of the finest warehouses in London. District 4, Stationers' Hall, Warwick Lane, Newgate Market, Christ's Hospital, Newgate, the Old Bailey, Central Criminal Court, by Sepulchres, the Compter, Smithfield Market, Bartholomew's Hospital, St John's Gate, the Charterhouse, Aldersgate Street, Whitecross Street, Panya Alley, Holborn Hill, the Fleet Street, Andrews Church, Ely Place, Ancient Law Courts, Holborn Bars. Proceeding northward from St Paul's towards Newgate Street, we again traverse the great book-selling district, in the heart of which, standing back from a passage leading from Ludgate Hill to Paternoster Row, is Stationers' Hall, where the works of all authors are entered to secure their copyright. The gross amount of magazines and other periodicals sold on the last day of the month in Paternoster Row has been estimated at 500,000 copies. The annual return of periodical works alone are rated at 300,000, and this notwithstanding the wonderful cheapness of price at which they are issued, so that some idea may be formed of the extensive nature of the business here transacted. Threading the tortuous thoroughfare of Warwick Lane, which derived its name from the mansion of the Earls of Warwick, having been there situated in the days of yore, we pass on our left the College of Physicians, where the golden globe on the dome seems to be the distant sight, a gilded pill. The business of the college is now removed to a much finer building in Pall Mall East, and the ground floor of the old college is occupied by the butchers, who could not find room in the confused space of Newgate Market. Other manufacturers are carried on in the upper floors of the building. At the back of this building and in the midst of a densely populated area is Newgate Market, which is productive of considerable inconvenience to the public. From its ill-chosen situation, on market days it frequently happens that the streets in the vicinity are completely blocked up by the butchers' carts. In 13 slaughterhouses here, there are as many as 600 sheep and from 50 to 110 bullocks slaughtered every day. It will certainly be a great public convenience if Old Smithfield, which is close at hand, as suggested, be converted into a dead meat market. And here we have another illustration. This is Fleet Street and St Dunstan's West, midday. And it's interesting that they have here the office for Bradshaw's Railway Guides, British and Continental, which of course is this book. It's a bit of advertising for them. Mansion in the west, Regent Street, and All Souls Church, Langham Place. Okay, I'm going to leave it there now. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of reading from this book. I'm Kate at the Library Whispers, and thank you for popping by. I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.